Hi there, welcome back again to Last Week I Watched. I'm Mark and I watch and review movies and TV to help you decide whether or not you'd be interested in watching any of these things. So this week we're off the Christmas movies, which is good, and we're back to a variety of different things. As I'm on break, I'm watching lots and lots of new material. So last week I watched Within, The Accountant, Coming Home in the Dark, Ron's Gone Wrong, Handsome, and Alien Warfare. So let's talk about them. First up was Within. It's a movie from 2016. It stars Michael Vartan, Erin Moriarty, and Ronnie Jean Blevins. It was showing on Netflix. So the movie's about a widower. They move into a seemingly perfect new home with his wife, with his daughter and his new wife, and but they're quickly plagued with problems. And these problems are mysterious and unexpected, almost supernatural, you might say. The movie's a thriller. And it tries to throw some misdirection around who or what is causing the problem. Initially it looks like it might be the creepy neighbour. He seems friendly, he seems helpful, perhaps overly so, but really he's up to no good and he's a bit of a creep. As the movie continues on though, the problems don't stop, especially once he's apprehended, and more strange supernatural occurrences continue. Investigating into the history of the house, they find that they've got a good deal on the house because there's been a few murders there. The movie's reasonably good, although there's some cringy voyeuristic scenes played with the teenage daughter that I do wonder if they could have perhaps done that in a more subtle way, or maybe just not done that. It does misdirect and play the switch reasonably well, although you'll be putting it together before the end of the film. Once the actual murderer is revealed, and I don't want to spoil anything, so if you want to stop and go and watch it, that's fine. Do it now. Once the actual murderer is revealed though, you wonder why the heck people didn't just get out of the house, because the second they figured out that somebody is living in there, and perhaps there's something a bit wrong with them, they really should just get the hell out of there. But stupid people do stupid does, and I did find it quite interesting that the movie doesn't really go with the traditional happy ending, but instead goes with a dark ending. So kudos to them for that option. Overall, it's a reasonably enjoyable thriller. I'd suggest giving it a watch. I guess perhaps what is more creepier about it though is the actual cases of intruders living in people's homes undetected. The reality of it somehow makes it that much worse. So, yeah. I do have to ask though, I do have a question. Do American houses really have like crawl spaces wide enough in the walls for people to move around inside the walls? Because I know how my house is constructed, and there's sure as shit no way I'm fitting in the walls. Do they really build the houses with like double walls? Like there's an interior inside wall and then an air gap that's quite large, and then the outside wall of the house? Because even with like a brick rendered house or brick made house here, you still have the framing and then you have the brick, but you don't have like a massive gap inside it. So I'm kind of curious about that one. How are people crawling around on the walls and floors? Is construction really that different in the US? If anybody knows the answer to that question and can enlighten me, please leave comments below, because I'm genuinely interested. Or is this just a conceit of this film that's the way it is? Okay, next up was The Accountant. It's from 2016, and this movie stars Ben Affleck, Anna Kendrick, J.K. Simmons, and John Lithgow, and it was showing on Netflix. So it's about a maths savant. I guess he provides financial services to organisations of ill repute, whether it be cooking the books, or in this case he's bought in to look for fraud in a particular client's books. And this means that he sparked the interest of the Treasury Department, or they're interested in a person that has been working with them, but they don't really know who he is, so they're trying to find him. So that's sort of a B story that's moving on in this as well as the main story where he's uncovered some malfeasance in a company and is trying to then track down who's responsible for that. And everything sort of, I guess, comes to a head when well, obviously he's got a number of parties looking for him, but there's a third party that wants him out of the way now because he's what he's found. And so he has to bring to bear all of the skills he has, which interestingly aren't just accountancy, and try and, I guess, defeat the bad guys and survive. I really enjoyed the movie, actually, particularly the way they portrayed people with autism spectrum disorders. Obviously, not everyone is savant level gifted, but certainly with sensitivities to sound, clothing, etc., the inability to read emotions or face as well. It goes a long way to educating people about the condition, because people generally just sort of look at autism as being it's a terrible disease and you're a victim and you basically a brain damaged vegetable, but that's not actually the case. And I have family members with ASD. It's likely I'm on the spectrum. It's likely a lot of people I work with, because of the sector I work with in IT. It's one of those areas that people with this condition tend to go into, and I view it more as a superpower rather than a negative problem, because it's actually the ability to be hyper focused on things can actually be a really good skill. And this is evidenced by Ben Affleck's character's ability to see patterns in numbers, making him good at accounting and detecting fraud and things like that. I thought it was good to see it not as a terrible thing. I mean, obviously there are some people that are massively afflicted with it, and the good news is oftentimes with education, as they grow, as they are taught to develop skills such as reading emotions, reading people's faces better, and things like that, you can actually learn to manage it and to be a functioning member of society, and it's not actually that bad, and you do get a lot of people that are detail oriented with this kind of thing moving into fields where that's a real advantage. I don't see it as a negative, and it was nice to see it portrayed in a more positive way. Interwoven within the film is Christian's backstory and how his condition has affected his family and his upbringing, and that's interesting too. I mean, obviously, parents have to deal with someone who's on the spectrum, and the difficulties that some of that can bring, that you have to deal with some of their issues in, I guess, very gentle ways, and that can try people's patience. So Christian in this film has many skills from his military father, and while I wouldn't say that he is a paragon of parenting, he's certainly very harsh on his boys. He has well equipped him in this case for the various challenges that he has, and he certainly has an interesting side gig doing away with problem people. This is probably not something I'd recommend training into your autistic kids though, but in the context of the film it's fine, and it does lead to some pretty good action scenes as well, and once it gets going, there's many moving parts with different parties after him for different reasons, and a lot of ways to bring them into conflict and I guess have to deal with them. The movie's got a great cast. It's pretty good. There's a good twist at the end, which I was starting to suspect, but I was still surprised when they connected it together. I'd recommend giving it a watch. I thought it was a really good film, and I really enjoyed it, so check it out. Okay, next up is Coming Home in the Dark. It's from 2021. It stars Daniel Gillies, Eric Thompson, and Mariama McDowell. It's showing on Netflix. It's about a school teacher. He's forced to confront a brutal act from the past when a pair of ruthless drifters take him and his family on a nightmare road trip. I sat down to watch this one thinking, this will be a nice film from home. It's made in New Zealand, and sometimes I must admit, particularly at the moment while I'm trapped in lockdown and have been for 2 years, it would be nice to go home and to see the scenery and all of that. So I thought that this would scratch that particular itch, and it does. It starts off with a nice family outing into outdoors with some great scenery. However, things very, very quickly go wrong, and there's an extremely sudden and very shocking act of violence, and then it pretty much doesn't let up till the end, and it's pretty brutal. It's a really good film. I mean, while it wasn't the nice feel good, enjoy the scenery sort of drama I thought it might have been, it's certainly an interesting story, and I guess it was. I found it a bit challenging because you're trying to identify with the antagonist's pain, and what they have had happen to them is very wrong. Don't get me wrong. It's a terrible thing that they've gone through as young boys, but it's still really hard to sympathise with them because they've used it to justify being really terrible people. And everybody has a mix of good and bad things in their lives, but you don't have to let the pain make you into a terrible person that inflicts pain on other people. I mean, that doesn't make you any better, does it? So, as they're looking for revenge, they're hurting people who weren't even connected to their tragedy, and so they've kind of become monsters in their own right. And while I think they blame what happened to them for what they have become, you still do have freedom of will, and you can make your own choices, and you don't have to do this. So, it's a really good film. It's got an interesting story. It's interesting to see, both sides portrayed. Check it out and see what you think about the people involved. Are they all terrible? Are they the people that had things happen to them terrible because they go on to do terrible things? Is the person that perhaps didn't speak up to stop the terrible thing happening to them also terrible? Are they just all terrible? Does what happened to the drifters justify their revenge? But yes, beware, there is some shocking violence. It's really not one for the kids. This is definitely for the grown-ups, so check it out. Okay, next up is something a bit more kid-friendly. This is Ron's Gone Wrong. It's a movie from 2021 starring Zach Galifianakis, Jack Dylan Grazer and Ed Helms. It was showing on Disney+. This is about Barney. He's I guess he's an odd kid. He's his own thing, and that's fine. That's all cool. But he wants a digital friend more than anything. I guess to fit in with everybody else who's got one. He's feeling the peer pressure. But when his poor father and grandmother get him a second-hand Bee-Bot, which he names Ron, he kind of has to learn about true friendship, because Ron is not right, which is, a kind way to put it. Ron is very defective, humorously so. He's missing his software. He's not fully installed. I particularly like the joke where he's trying to install the software, but he can't get on the internet because he hasn't signed the agreement or something, so he can't install the software. But the whole thing's that whole circular argument. Well, you need to do this, but you can't do this, but you can't do this to you, and do this, but you can't do that. So you just can't. I thought it was a lot of fun, actually. The Bee-Bots do look quite desirable. I have to admit, they look like they're a lot of fun. The movie does make a lot of commentary on social networking, and quite rightly so, especially with some of the issues we're having with things like Facebook and that at the moment. And certainly the Bee-Bots curating the children's lives and presenting them in a filtered way really shows the artificiality of social media, particularly when it comes to children as well, because at that age you should be making friends, you should be interacting with friends and real people, not envying somebody else's Instagram feed or Facebook feed or whatever that's been curated to only show the good stuff and the perfect stuff, and it's got a filter applied and emojis and all the rest of it, and it looks really cool, but maybe in real life it's not quite that perfect. Things weren't quite right, or they were still good, but they just weren't perfect. Ron's malfunctions and mistakes allow him to do something the other Bee-Bots can't. He grows along with Barney, and that's a much better friend. Friendship is about sharing time and experience with each other and growing together, and you can't really do that with social media. You're just sharing stuff to a notice board for people to look at. It's a very, very one-way friendship. The story itself's pretty predictable. It's the usual sort of 3-act structure. Something happens, something goes wrong, they resolve it. But it's more about the message, and that's fine. The animation is a lot of fun. There's plenty of jokes and gimmicks. I'm an adult, I had a good time with it. Barney's a fun character too. He's also a unique individual. It's nice to see him learn that we don't all have to be filtered and conformed to be liked. Just be you. It's got a nice message, and it's a fun movie to watch with your kids. So watch the movie with them, and then maybe use it to have a discussion about the ideas in the movie. My daughter is entering her teenage years at the moment, and she's hyper aware of social media and obsessed with conforming with everyone else. And it really breaks my heart, because she's a beautiful person, and she's smart, and she has lots of friends, and honestly, she's pretty amazing. And I watch what it does to her mental landscape, doing backflips to try to conform to what she thinks other people want from her all the time. And really, she doesn't need to. She just needs to be herself. So I think I'll probably try and give it a watch with her again. So and see whether we can have some discussions about that. Okay, next up was Handsome. It's from 2017, starring Jeff Garlin. It's on Netflix. So it's about Gene Handsome. He's an LA murder detective, and he tries to make sense of his life while trying to solve crime. But Handsome's knack for solving mysteries is matched only by his inability to make sense of his own problems, which is a backhanded way of saying he's really not that smart. It's a quirky crime movie with a not too bright detective and his not too bright colleagues. It's not laugh out loud funny. It's quirky and odd, and that's okay. I don't mind movies with quirky, unusual characters. I mean, I really love The Big Lebowski, but this is definitely not that. I would not compare these two to that. But it's in a I guess a similar wheelhouse in that it's some unusual characters. A lot of the comedy is talky interactions with people, and most of that humour just comes down to what people are saying to each other. It's a really unusual and interesting choice to give away the murderer right at the beginning of the movie. I'm not quite sure what they were trying to achieve by doing that, because it really felt like it undercut the film. And after that, it's basically just watching the characters bumble through the day and stumble to the conclusion. And when you already know who it is, I guess it's really just the why after that point. And yeah, it just it took something away from the movie for me. It wasn't as fulfilling. It does spend some time on his personal issues as well, which is fine. He's got an infatuation with a new next door neighbour, but she really only uses him to get onto something better. And that's a little bit sad, but he's so placid and mild that you don't really feel bad for him. It's just kind of like, oh well, that's fine. And the whole movie is kind of just really like that. It's okay. I don't think I'd watch it again, really. I did enjoy its quirky oddness, but it's not clever. I don't know if it thinks it's trying to be. And like I said, it doesn't really even have the mystery to unravel. So overall, it comes across a bit sort of meh. If you're looking for something fairly easy to watch, you just want something to put on to make noise and you'll play on your phone or whatever while it's going, then that's fine, go for it. If you don't want to think too hard and you just want to chill, and maybe you'll get some sort of light chuckles from it, check it out. But yeah, don't expect too much from it. I don't think it's going to spawn a franchise or anything like that. Okay, so the final movie, and we've really saved the best for last on this one, is Alien Warfare. It's a movie from 2019 starring Clayton Snyder, David B. Meadows, and Daniel Washington. It's showing on Netflix. So this movie is about a team of Navy SEALs, and they're sent to investigate a mysterious science outpost, only to have to fight a squad of formidable alien soldiers. Now, some science fiction movies are B-movies, and that's fine. That's okay. Maybe those movies have got a good story, but not enough budget. Maybe but they try really hard to still do well. Perhaps they come up with creative ways around their limitations and go on to become something special or culty. This movie is not that. This movie is terrible all the way through, from beginning to end. It seems to have an extremely low to non-existent budget. A lot of it looks like it was shot in an abandoned building or some kind of abandoned farmhouse or something. There's almost no set design to speak of. Even when they're in like the abandoned building, it's largely abandoned. It's like it's mostly empty. There's just, say, the odd abandoned table or something, or folding chair. Costuming is standard army surplus. The story is terrible. Wherever they've been sent, it doesn't even look like a top secret lab. I'm not sure they ever even explain why the aliens were there. There's no real warfare. There's not even much sort of action or fights. There's certainly no fight choreography. The acting is generally terrible. The actors are clearly uninterested in being there, or perhaps they're just not very good, I don't know. Perhaps they had terrible direction and material. But there isn't much to salvage this into something reasonable. I'm pretty sure that you could do special effects on most home computers now. Not that there is much of anything like that either. Heck, the soldiers shoot round after round and never seem to expend any shell casings or anything like that, so clearly the gunfire is just a sound effect and I guess maybe a muzzle flash. The aliens look like low-budget Power Rangers. I guess, motorcycle suit and some kind of helmet. The only time they really piqued any kind of interest in me was when they took the helmet off, and they did actually have some kind of alien mask, and it looked a bit like a 40k towel, so I thought, well, that's kind of cool. But they don't do anything. I don't even think the mouths moved. I think it was literally just a rubber mask. So overall, I'm not going to waste any more time talking about this. I really struggled to find something good to say about it, but I just can't. Checking online, it was a 1-star review at most places. It's a terrible movie. Don't waste your time on it. It's garbage. I can only conclude that the reason it's on Netflix is they needed some filler, or just maybe they didn't check very hard to see what kind of movie it was. Occasionally there are movies on Netflix that you do look at it and go, why is this on here? But yeah, this one was really bad. This is really scraping the bottom of the barrel. There's nothing for enjoyment here. There's it's not even just a dumb action film. There's just not even that. So don't bother with this one. Okay, so those are my reviews for this week. I hope they help you. I hope they help you to avoid watching Alien Warfare and wasting an hour and a half of your time. As always, if you have any thoughts or suggestions for me, please do leave them below in the comments. I'd be happy to check them out, and I'm happy to converse with you if you want to talk movies or TV. And as always, click on the like and subscribe button. It'll be somewhere on the screen. And don't forget the little bell icon, because you want to get alerts when I post some more reviews and I want to share them with you. Also, there is a Twitter account that'll be somewhere on the screen now as well, and I live tweet on that when I'm watching things and what I'm watching, and there's a bit of a running commentary, so if you want to come and interact with me on there, that's fine too, and I'll also be using that to let people know when new reviews go up. So anyway, go and enjoy some movies and TV. Hopefully you've still got some holidays and some time off to enjoy. If you're trapped in lockdown, my condolences. If you're like us and you've opened up over Christmas and just let everything run crazy and now you're dealing with the fallout of that, you also have my condolences. It looks like we're going to be working from home again for a while. They're trying to avoid doing lockdowns, but now the vid is rampaging far and wide, and people are contracting it multiple times, and hospital numbers are climbing, and quarantine is home quarantine is happening again. So we're kind of not saying we're in lockdown, but people will be forced back into their own personal lockdowns anyway. So anyway, I hope wherever you are and whatever your situation is, please do stay safe, please stay well, enjoy some movies and TV, and I'll see you back for the next reviews. Thanks for watching. Bye now.